Hey guys, welcome back to SA Homesteads. Today's growing guide is we're going to be talking about how to grow nasturtiums indoors. This is my fallow nasturtium plant that I've been growing indoors now for about 6 months, and it's been doing really well. So well actually that I've had to prune it back quite a lot. Nasturtiums, you might know that they grow outside and they're not really considered an indoor plant, but because I like that challenge, I wanted to grow them indoors to kind of challenge myself. Because I like caring and growing difficult plants that might seem impossible to grow indoors. But I decided I want to take up the challenge of growing an indoor nasturtium plant, and so far it seems like it's working and it's actually growing. Nasturtiums you can get from any garden center. You can buy seeds. I don't know if you can buy seedlings because they're not really container plants, if you'd like to say. But this one is it's beautiful because it's actually flowered for me quite a few times. It's actually produced seeds, which I don't know how, because they're indoors and I don't know how the flowers got pollinated, but maybe I left the window open and they got wind pollinated or a bee flew in. I'm not quite sure. You get many different varieties of nasturtiums. You get light nasturtiums that have variegations on the leaves. You also get a nasturtium that has beautiful flower. So they all have flowers, but you get different color flowers, from white, creamy white, to dark reds, to oranges and whites, to all different colors. This I know is a deep red and an orange. And there's actually two plants in here, and it's trailing. It trailed down my bookcase, and I actually decided I wanted to prune it because it started to get quite long, and I didn't want it to get long. I wanted it to be more bushy and full up here. So I've just cut it here, and I'm going to let it die back naturally up to here. It will probably die back up to here because there's another little leaflet growing here. Nasturtiums grow wonderfully outdoors. They're great companion plants, and they just look beautiful, and they seed and grow quite quickly actually. I decided to take up this challenge in January this year, and I actually did it by mistake. I planted a granadilla in this pot, which I've actually removed now because this nasturtium is growing in it. So there was actually some seeds that came up in here, which I don't know how. And yeah, so it's grown beautifully since then. And yeah, so let's get to how to grow them. So nasturtiums like moist soil. They are quite drought tolerant, but they are quite drought tolerant, but if they start to sag, or the leaves start to curl up and become crispy, then you know that they've passed their limits of how much that you should water them now. They are not really frost hardy. They have these very tender little leaves, and when they get hit by frost, they'll actually die down. I grow mine as a perennials, but many people grow them as annuals, but for some reason mine is a perennial. And yeah, so they grow as a trailing plant. Many people can grow them in containers. And if you plant them in a nice compost, then you'll actually find that they don't produce many flowers. They'll produce more vegetative growth because there's more nitrogen in that compost. So you'll find that they won't produce many flowers. They'll just produce these wonderful big leaves and not many flowers, which is quite upsetting because many people grow them for their beautiful flowers. And yeah, so you might want to plant them in some nice garden soil that's lacking in nitrogen a bit, and when you're fertilizing them, maybe give them more of a higher potassium than in nitrogen, to encourage more of a more flowers than vegetative growth. They do have quite a few pests. They have aphids. That's why many people plant them as companion plants. So that in vegetable gardens, so that instead of aphids going into your vegetable garden, they'll actually be drawn to the plant and they will suck on the underside of the leaf. Funny enough, this year I haven't been hit with aphids at all. Usually I get them in winter for some reason, but this year I haven't had any aphids, which is actually a good thing for me. I do not like aphids as they're quite hard to get rid of, but they don't seem to actually kill the plant at all, which is a good thing because I find nasturtiums look very nice and they just fill up spaces that I don't know what to put there. And yeah, so you can actually also eat them. You can cook the leaves. You can eat the leaves raw. They have a bit of a spicy taste to them. You can eat the seeds and you can eat the flowers. Many people put the flowers many people actually put flowers in their dishes to make their dishes look nicer, as they actually produce a nice, beautiful, edible flower. This nasturtium that I have is growing in partial shade. I actually have a window up here, and it will get a bit of morning sun, and that morning sun, I guess, is what actually gives it all of its, what makes it grow. So I also give it some indirect sunlight, and you actually have to turn it every day or so because they grow quite quickly. They'll quickly lean over to the light source. So you can see this one has already started to lean over to the light source, which is over there. So they're growing like that, which is so that all of their leaves are facing the light source. And if you rotate it, it will encourage a more fuller plant. I think they can get quite a bit of direct sunlight, and it doesn't matter as long as it's morning sunlight, not harsh afternoon sunlight, as you might actually burn the leaves because they have very fragile leaves on them. I'm growing mine in an old rusted container here just for its because it looks more authentic and just looks more rustic, and that's kind of the theme that I like. And yeah, I haven't fertilized mine at all actually. I actually fertilized it with some elephant manure that I got from a friend. I was testing out to see if it would actually work, and it seemed like it worked. But I kind of hold back on the fertilizing in winter because they're not really growing actively at the moment. But I guess indoors you must fertilize them because you don't have a colder temperature than outside, so they won't really be stimulated to go into their dormancy period. So yeah, I'm just going to go outside and I'm going to show you my nasturtiums that I'm growing outside. They've actually been hit with frost at the moment, so they don't look their best, but they do have some showy blooms on them. And yeah, so let's get to it. So here is my nasturtium patch. You can see that they've been hit with frost as the leaves started to curl and they've started to die off. But they'll be okay. This happens every year, but this year it was unfortunately a colder winter than we've had. So it was an unusually cold winter. We got to minus degrees. And yeah, so this is a red, almost like a light red color. Beautiful, and here's more orangey color. As you go along here, they actually become more greener and more vegetative. So you can see that there's more nitrogen here than there is potassium because there is more leaves than flowers, unfortunately, but it doesn't really matter. And over here they're trailing also. They're producing this yellow, more of a lighter color flower. This one is spent already, and I used to have more different colors, but I guess this is all I have left at the moment. And yeah, so that's it for this video, and I hope to see you guys next time.